My vision and our party's vision, the Animal Justice Party's party vision for a sustainable and healthy Victoria focuses not only on our individual health but on the health of others around us, including the animals that we share this world with. We think that people's health certainly improves by having animals around us, and including our pets, and we're much happier that way. But we need to try and prevent as much as we can, some of the diet-related diseases that this Western nations face as our diets focus heavily on animal products. I see this in my work as a paramedic, a lot of diet-related diseases that can be prevented, and instead of trying to catch up on healthcare spending, we can direct that money into preventative measures and having a much better approach. We'd obviously like to see much greener open spaces around the area, and of course moving away from heavily animal-based diets to having whole foods, plant-based, where we could hopefully one day walk down through the park and pick an apple off the tree. Cheers.
Okay, well thank you for that, and this is a fantastic opportunity because these five are going to fight over your vote on the small ballot paper, and I'm going to convince 100% of you to vote for me on the big ballot paper. I would like to pay tribute to my fellow candidates. I have great admiration for people who put themselves up for office, and great respect for them, even though we disagree on some policies. A healthy Victoria really needs at the heart of it a healthy democracy and a healthy parliament, and we don't have that at the moment. In fact, at this election, 20% of eligible voters won't even vote. They either won't get on the roll, they won't turn up, or they'll vote informally. And that's a pretty serious situation. We have a very low regard for politics at the moment, and it's going down. Our dissatisfaction level in politics has doubled in the last 4 years, and 40% of Australians no longer believe in democracy as the best form of government. So I think if you get that level of disengagement, then society can fracture very easily. So I think we do need to lift the level of politics, and in order to do that, I've written to the other political parties and proposed a code for clean politics that we can all do better. Central to that is a ban on corporate political donations, because I think that's at the heart of all of the, or many of the poor decisions we get. We get special treatment for those with the deepest pockets. And it doesn't matter whether it's alcohol advertising or casino licences or development decisions. They are all compromised by donations. We want no more $10,000 dinners where you can have the ear of the minister. I want Victoria to be number one for all the right reasons, on a national stage and even internationally. Not the dirtiest energy state or one with the highest unemployment or the lowest paid teachers. I want us to be number one on renewable energy, on income equity, on national park management, social housing, cycling infrastructure, TAFE funding. These are the things we should be leading on. And I want us to control the gambling industry, not them control the government. If elected, I will ensure that Labor does not build the tollway. My first act will be to introduce a private member's bill to end the corporate donations that are crippling our parliament, and to end taxpayer-funded political advertising that's annoying all of us. Basically, I'm running because I want to restore people's faith in politics.
I'm Jane Garrett. I'm the current state member for Brunswick. Was elected in 2010, and thank you very much for everyone coming. It's a really good turnout. And I'd also like to thank Ian and the congregation here because I think it's a real reflection of Brunswick that we have this political discussion, this democratic analysis and questions and answers in a place that is really the heart of Sydney Road in a lot of ways, certainly a spiritual home for a lot of people, but also a welcoming home with the Olive Way, and that takes its responsibility really seriously in terms of its faith in the community. So I thank you for that, and I'm really pleased to be here with these find people who, as Peter said, are all putting themselves on the line to have these discussions. A healthy and sustainable Victoria encapsulates a lot of extremely important things, but we can't have a healthy or sustainable Victoria if we have an unjust and unfair Victoria. If we have a place where people cannot get a decent education, who have to pay to go to the doctor. We cannot have a fair and sustainable and healthy Victoria where youth unemployment is at record highs. We have the highest unemployment rate on the mainland, and where we are investing under this government billions and billions and billions of dollars in a road tunnel that nobody wants, instead of investing in public transport, which helps everybody. So I think what we have seen over the last 4 years under a Conservative government in Victoria, and then the last 18 months with a Conservative government in Canberra, is an unprecedented and relentless attack on the fairness of our community. We have had, just to name a few, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars ripped out of TAFE and VCal, which is alienating an entire generation of young people from a capacity to engage in education and to fulfil their opportunity and to make a decent life for themselves and their family. NAPFEM promised, or Balliol promised, 800 beds. We've seen none of that. Instead, we've seen a government ridden by farce, ridden by the wrong priorities and not focused on the needs of the Victorian community. Overlay that with a federal government that has, without warning, had an extraordinary assault on the things that we held to be so dear. And when we think about Whitlam's passing, in these last weeks, on Medicare, on public education, on the fact that it's now going to cost $150,000 for an ordinary person to even attempt university. These things are ripping the fabric of our community. So this is a critical election. It's a critical election for Victoria, and it is a critical election for the country, because we need a strong Labor government to stand up for our community here, and we need a strong Labor government to stand up against Tony Abbott and his heinous cuts to those who are the most vulnerable.
Thank you. I'm Tim Reid. I'm the Greens candidate for Brunswick. And I joined the Greens because the Greens focus on the long-term future. They think beyond the next election. They're interested in preventing problems before they get out of hand, and they dare to tackle the big issues. As a doctor, whether I'm looking at someone with hepatitis C or diabetes, I'm often asking, could we prevent this? And if we look at how the Greens approach the big issues, I'm thinking of particularly our vision to narrow the gap between rich and poor, trying to reduce the influence of corporations over our lives, over our environment, and over our parliament. And I'd like to see Victoria switch from being a leader in carbon pollution to a leader in reducing carbon emissions. And so how do Greens want to do this? We want to do this in Parliament by putting people ahead of business. Let's just take one example. Let's look at poker machines, which is where about 80% of problem gambling occurs. And so we've repeatedly put legislation forward, which hasn't been taken up by the other parties, to limit maximum bets to $1. And that would reduce the rate of family breakdown, depression, and the demands placed on the mental health service. But we haven't had any support in that. Let's look at diabetes. We've got an epidemic of type 2 diabetes in the outer suburbs. It's an illness of poverty, much more common in suburbs with low average income. Let's take the pressure off the hospital system by banning outdoor advertising of junk food, by restricting advertising of alcohol, and while we're at it, gambling. These are all Greens initiatives, and it's important to point out that perhaps one of the reasons why it's difficult to do this is because political parties receive donations from corporations that have business before government, and the Greens would like this looked at, and we would like parties to pledge not to do this. We've got other equity-based issues. We'd like to raise the standards of rental accommodation. We'd like to move funding from prisons and into programs that divert kids away from prisons. We'd like to repair the damage done to TAFE by the privatisation of vet courses by successive governments. And public transport itself is an equity issue. If we can put more money into outer suburban buses, we can get low-income earners to work more easily. And it's also a climate issue, so we want to get more cars off the road. We'd like to ban fracking and coal seam gas and coal mines. And we want to accelerate what's already happening, which is the decline in energy consumption by boosting renewable energy. And we saw how Adam Banff got an agreement with Julia Gillard on getting a carbon price. And people trust the Greens to stand up for these ideas in Parliament. Thank you.
G'day. My name is Dean OCallaghan, and I'm with a team of people who are definitely not career politicians, who are very focused on helping us all to avert climate catastrophe. We're all volunteering our time to do this, and I actually think I'm enjoying it. So, what I'm going to talk about tonight is the first question, which was how are we going to have a healthy and sustainable Victoria, and how will we achieve that goal? I'm sorry, was it Ward? Yep. Ward's point about living symbiotically and holistically sustainably, and people around us resonates with me, and I see it as a bit of a dream that humanity can live perpetually on this planet, symbiotically with animals and plants and wildlife, and and a climate that keeps providing us with food. I think that's a really big thing for a healthy, sustainable community, especially a healthy and sustainable Victoria. One of the things that keeps Victoria healthy and sustainable is the moratorium on fracking, which we have still in this state, which is fantastic, and that's why I think it's really, really important to avoid electing people who can be manipulated by big corporations, which was Peter's point, who can say, hey, look, I want to put a fracking site in here, and apparently the science on it is fine. It's actually not. I'm straying from the point, but the point is that you can't have a healthy and sustainable community if you don't have leadership proper. If leadership's not right, if the people making decisions for all of us are influenced by massive corporate donations, then those massive corporate donations are going to be getting the decisions that put people in jeopardy. And so I highly recommend not voting for parties that do take big donations, and keeping up the vigilance on watching the debate about fracking and not letting it come into Victoria, because the idea of putting a chemical cocktail under the ground that we don't even know what it is, because it's a proprietary recipe which can have all sorts of chemicals in it, scares the hell out of me, and I think it should scare everyone. So that's something we can avoid to have a healthy and sustainable Victoria. What else can we do? Does that mean I've got a minute? Or nothing left? That means nothing left. Alright, well, to wrap things up, it doesn't when you're not talking. I didn't think I'd have enough to say. Alright, well, to wrap it up, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm so glad you're all here, and thank you, Carolyn, for organising this.
Hello, my name is Giuseppe Vellotti. I'm passionate about what I do. Now, my vision for health and sustainability, well, I believe that starts at the kids, at the education level, and what they eat and what's given to them throughout their surroundings. So, in that respect, as we get older health is always going to be an issue, pressure on the hospital systems, and it's up to us to educate the surroundings. So that's my belief there in that area there. With the sustainability side of things, I think that I believe in the recycling of things and to ensure that we can use things efficiently and effectively in the sense of the consumption that we do. So they're my two visions, and then I'll try to. Sorry, I apologise if I'm stuttering, but this is the first time I've been in a forum, so I've got to get used to it a little bit. So that's my beliefs, and as far as the health-wise and the health system, I'll always advocate for what I believe is a system that's available to us. Okay, thank you.